If I told you a tiny German Shepherd puppy walked into a police station and begged officers for help, you probably wouldn't believe it. But everything you're about to hear is real. It started on a quiet morning, when officers were joking around until the station door slammed open and a trembling puppy rushed inside. He wasn't lost. He wasn't hungry. He wasn't looking for attention. He was terrified and desperate. He stood on his hind legs, pressing his paws together like he was pleading. And then he sprinted back and forth, trying to pull an officer toward the door. No one understood what he wanted until they found the mysterious ribbon tied around his neck. What the officers discovered next left the entire station in tears, and turned this tiny puppy into a hero no one would ever forget. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The morning at Riverside Police Station had begun like any other, slow, predictable, almost too quiet. Officer Jenna Holly sipped her coffee, thinking it might finally be a peaceful shift. She couldn't have been more wrong. The heavy double doors of the station suddenly flew open with a sharp bang, crashing against the walls. Every officer in the room jerked upright, hands instinctively moving toward their holsters, expecting a threat, a suspect. Anything but what they actually saw. A tiny German Shepherd puppy, barely old enough to stand steady. The little creature stumbled over the threshold, panting hard. His fur was covered in dirt and leaves. Tiny paws scraped as if he had run miles without stopping. His wide, terrified eyes searched the room desperately before locking onto Jenna. For a moment, no one moved. Then the puppy ran directly toward her. He skidded across the floor, stopped at her boots, and lifted his trembling front paws, tapping her shin as if begging for her attention. His chest rose and fell rapidly, each breath shaky and uneven. Jenna crouched down slowly, afraid even a sudden movement might scare him. Up close, his fear was unmistakable. "What happened to you, little guy?" she whispered. The puppy whimpered, a heartbreaking sound, and nudged her hand frantically, glancing back toward the open door as if urging her to follow. His tiny body shook, not from cold, but from something far worse. Panic across the room. Two officers exchanged looks. "Stray pups don't behave like that," one muttered. "They don't run into police stations," the other added. Jenna gently stroked the puppy's head, feeling his rapid heartbeat beneath her fingertips. She had handled countless animals during rescues, but never had one approached her like this, with purpose, desperation, and unmistakable intent. Something was wrong, terribly wrong, and whatever this little puppy had come to tell them, Jenna knew it would change the entire day. The moment she touched him, she felt how fast his little heart was pounding like a tiny drum against her palm. He wasn't just scared. He was terrified. Officers gathered around, forming a quiet circle as Jenna set the pup on her desk beneath the warm glow of a desk lamp. "Easy, sweetheart. Let me see you," Jenna murmured. The puppy stood shakily, his tail tucked so tightly it touched his belly. Jenna noticed a smear of dried mud along his side. No, not mud. Ash? There was also a scrape near his back leg, nothing deep but fresh enough to sting. Something had chased him. Or someone. Then she saw it. A thin, torn ribbon loosely knotted around his neck, frayed like it had been yanked off in a struggle. On one end, a tiny charm dangled shaped like a little silver paw print. "Not something a stray would have. Looks like he belongs to someone," Officer Daniel said behind her, leaning closer. "Yeah," Jenna replied softly. "And he's trying to tell us something." When she touched the charm, the puppy let out a desperate whine and pawed at her arm again, more urgently this time, as if begging her not to waste a second. Jenna leaned in, examining his eyes. They weren't just scared, they were pleading. She lifted his front paws gently. That's when she noticed. The dirt packed between his claws. Fresh dirt, soft soil. He had been digging hard. "Where did you come from, little guy?" Jenna whispered. The puppy shifted, staring toward the station doors again. He didn't want comfort. He wanted action. Jenna straightened slowly, a chill creeping over her. This wasn't a random arrival. This puppy had run here for help. Before Jenna could say another word, the puppy suddenly hopped off the desk, landing clumsily but determinedly on the floor. He shook once more out of urgency than nerves, and immediately pressed himself against her leg. His tiny claws scratched lightly at her uniform pants as he tugged, whimpering and pulling toward the station doors. "Hey, slow down, little one," Jenna said gently. But the puppy refused to stop. He grabbed the cuff of her pet leg with his tiny teeth and pulled again, harder this time. The room fell silent. It wasn't random behavior. It wasn't fear. This was insistence. Officer Daniel stepped forward. "He wants you to follow him." Jenna swallowed. "Yeah, I think he does." The puppy darted toward the exit, then rushed back to Jenna, over and over, pacing anxiously. His tail remained tucked, but his eyes blazed with purpose, as if every second wasted put someone in danger. His breathing was fast, shallow. He kept glancing at the door, then at Jenna, making sure she was watching. "Something's out there," Jenna murmured. She crouched to his level, and the puppy placed both paws on her knee, letting out a single sharp cry, one that cut straight into her chest. It wasn't a bark. It wasn't a whimper. It was a plea drenched in urgency. Jenna stood up decisively. "I'm getting my gear." As she strapped on her vest, clipped her radio, and grabbed her keys, the puppy ran in frantic circles, stopping only when she knelt to snap a temporary leash onto his collar. He didn't resist. He didn't hesitate. He bolted straight toward the door the moment she took a step. Other officers exchanged uneasy glances. This wasn't normal. This wasn't coincidence. Whatever this puppy had witnessed, whatever he had escaped from, he was determined to lead Jenna right back to it, and Jenna knew she had no choice but to follow, before Jenna could leave the station with the frantic puppy. Officer Ramirez called out from behind the front desk. "Hold on, check this out." His tone wasn't casual. It carried tension, the kind that made every officer glance up. Ramirez spun his monitor toward them. The puppy tugged impatiently at Jenna's leash, but she paused, leaning closer to see the security footage he had pulled up. It was from the front entrance, just 10 minutes earlier. The recording showed the station doors closed, the lobby empty, until the tiny German Shepherd suddenly appeared at the edge of the frame. But he didn't wander in. He sprinted. The puppy burst out of the tree line across the street, stumbling, scrambling, slipping on the sidewalk. Twice he tripped. Twice he got back up. He didn't look around. He didn't hesitate. He ran straight toward the station with unwavering determination. He wasn't lost. He was fleeing. "Look at the way he runs," Ramirez said quietly. "He's terrified." Jenna murmured. Then something else caught her eye. Behind the puppy, far back in the blurry distance, something moved. A shadow, a figure? It flickered for a moment between the trees, then disappeared. "Pause it," Jenna said sharply. Ramirez froze the frame. The shadow was faint, barely visible, but unmistakable. Someone or something had been behind the puppy. Moments before he reached safety, a cold prickle traveled up Jenna's spine. This wasn't just a scared pup. He was running from someone. Daniels exhaled slowly. "We can't ignore that. You better take backup." Jenna clipped her radio to her vest. "I'll call for support once he leads me to wherever he came from." The puppy whimpered, pulling the leash again, more desperate now, whatever waited out there. They were running out of time. Jenna pushed open the station doors, and a rush of crisp morning air swept across her face. The puppy bolted forward the second the sunlight hit him, tugging the leash so hard Jenna had to jog to keep up. His tiny legs moved with astonishing speed, driven by panic and purpose. As if every second mattered more than the last. "Easy, little guy, slow down," she called. But the puppy didn't listen. He couldn't. Something or someone needed her. They crossed the street, weaving through parked cars and heading straight toward the line of trees where the security footage had shown him emerging. The closer they got, the more frantic he became. His ears pinned back, his tail tucked even tighter, soft cries escaping him with every few steps. Jenna clicked her radio. Unit 4 heading into the forested zone behind the station. Possible distressed subject. Stand by. Static crackled, then dispatch replied, "Copy, Unit 4. The puppy pulled her down a narrow dirt trail, leaves crunching beneath her boots. Sunbeams flickered through the branches overhead, but despite the calm of the woods, Jenna felt a growing tension wrapping around her chest. The deeper they went, the more she sensed it fear. Not hers. "Who are you trying to show me?" she whispered. The puppy suddenly darted left, dragging her toward a steep slope. Jenna nearly slipped but steadied herself just in time. He wasn't wandering, his path was direct, chosen, rehearsed. He had traveled it before, recently. They reached a small clearing. The puppy stopped, ears perked, nose twitching rapidly. Then he pawed at the ground, whining, before taking off again, this time down a narrower, darker trail disappearing between thick bushes. Jenna followed, heart pounding harder. This wasn't random. This wasn't a stray dog's desperation. This was a tiny creature leading her back to the very place where everything had gone wrong, and whatever waited at the end of this trail. Jenna sensed it wouldn't be easy to face. The deeper Jenna and the puppy ventured into the forest, the quieter everything became. The sounds of the town faded behind them. No cars, no voices, not even distant footsteps. Only the rustle of leaves and the puppy's frantic breathing filled the air. Sunlight struggled to penetrate the thick canopy above, turning the trail into a dim tunnel of twisted branches and damp earth. The puppy slowed only long enough to sniff the air, his nose twitching with sharp, precise motions. Then he pulled again, guiding Jenna through an uneven stretch of roots and rocks. His fear had changed, less frantic now, more focused, like he knew they were getting close. "Dispatch Unit 4, Jenna said into her radio, her voice low. "Entering heavy woodland. Visibility limited. Requesting a backup unit to stage near the East Ridge." "Copy, Unit 4. Backup en route." Jenna clipped the radio back to her vest just as the puppy suddenly halted. His ears perked. His body stiffened. A soft, trembling whine escaped him as he stared ahead through a cluster of dense bushes. Jenna crouched beside him. "What is it?" Then she heard it. A faint sound so weak she almost mistook it for the wind. A muffled noise, high-pitched, like a cry. Or a plea. Jenna's breath caught. The puppy whimpered again and nudged forward, pushing his tiny head through the bushes. "Easy," she whispered, parting the branches. The air on the other side felt colder, heavier. The ground showed signs of struggle, disturbed dirt, broken twigs. Footprints too large to be the puppy's. Jenna's pulse quickened. Someone had been here recently, and whoever it was, they hadn't left on their own. The puppy stepped forward cautiously, his tail trembling. Jenna followed. Steeling herself, something was waiting for them in the heart of the woods. Jenna stepped into the darker part of the woods, every sense sharpened. The puppy stayed close to her boots now, no longer pulling, just trembling, watching the shadows, listening. Something in the air felt different here. Heavier, colder, charged with fear that didn't belong to nature. Then it came again, a sound so faint Jenna almost doubted her own ears. A soft, brittle whimper. Human, not animal, weak, strained, like someone trying to call out, but barely able to breathe. Jenna froze. The puppy didn't. He let out a sharp, urgent yelp and rushed forward, weaving between low branches. Jenna followed quickly, pushing aside thorny vines. Each step amplified the sound, a broken whisper, a muffled cry, a faint gasp trying desperately to stay alive. "Hello?" Jenna called out cautiously. "This is Officer Jenna Hale. If you can hear me, keep making noise." The response was immediate but fragile. A tiny cry, followed by silence. The puppy darted into a narrow gap between two leaning trees. Jenna ducked and squeezed through after him. On the other side, the forest opened into a small clearing. The smell of damp earth and something metallic drifted in the air. Blood, faint but unmistakable. Her eyes scanned the ground. That's when she saw a torn piece of fabric snagged on a broken branch. Next to it, drag marks in the dirt. Trembling footprints. Signs of a struggle. Jenna's heartbeat hammered in her ears. The puppy rushed ahead and stopped suddenly, crying loudly. He pawed at the ground, then turned to look at her with desperate, pleading eyes. Okay, I'm coming," Jenna whispered, her throat tight. The whimpering grew louder now. Clearer. Someone was out there. Someone barely hanging on, and whatever had happened to them. The puppy had led her just in time. Jenna pushed deeper into the clearing, her breath catching as the weak cries grew clearer, each one softer than the last, like they were fading into the earth. The puppy sprinted ahead, stumbling over roots in his desperation. He disappeared behind a half-collapsed wooden shed, its boards rotting, its roof sagging under tangled vines. "Wait, slow down," Jenna called, but the puppy didn't stop. He vanished behind the shed. And then Jenna heard a sound that made her blood run cold, a desperate, broken whine followed by frantic scratching. Jenna hurried around the side, boots sinking into damp soil. When she reached the back, her heart dropped. There, half hidden beneath a fallen beam, lay a woman. Her clothes were torn and smeared with dirt. A deep gash ran along her arm, dried blood streaking down to her fingertips. Her face was pale, almost gray with exhaustion and pain. She looked barely conscious, her breathing shallow. Every inhale a trembling struggle. The puppy rushed to her, climbing onto her chest with heartbreaking gentleness. He nudged her chin, whining endlessly, his tiny body shaking as he pressed against her like he feared she might vanish if he let go. The woman's eyelids fluttered weakly, her cracked lips parted. "Buddy, you came back." Jenna dropped to her knees beside them. "Ma'am, I'm Officer Jenna Hale. Stay with me, okay? I'm here to help." The woman tried to focus on her, but her gaze drifted. "Please, my puppy." He tried. He ran to get help. Her voice cracked, barely a whisper. "I didn't think he'd make it." Jenna gently checked her pulse, faint but present. The wound on her arm was only part of the problem. The deep bruising around her ribs, the torn clothing, the scattered footprints around the shed told a much darker story. Someone had attacked her. Someone strong. The woman's hand trembled as she reached for the puppy, who licked her fingers, whining louder, refusing to move from her chest. "You're safe now," Jenna said, pressing her radio. "Dispatch, I need medical assistance immediately. Critical condition." The woman's eyes filled with tears, not from pain, but from relief. Her puppy had saved her. She had held on. Just long enough for him to bring help. The woman struggled to keep her eyes open as Jenna supported her head with gentle hands. The puppy stayed pressed against her chest, his tiny body rising and falling with her weak breaths, refusing to budge even an inch. Jenna could see the terror in the woman's trembling fingers, the way she clutched the puppy as if he were the only thing anchoring her to life. "Ma'am, help is on the way," Jenna said softly. "Just stay awake. Can you tell me what happened?" The woman swallowed hard, her throat dry. I didn't want trouble," she whispered, voice cracked and fragile. "I was just walking down the old trail. I take Buddy out there all the time. It's quiet. Safe. At least I thought it was." Jenna leaned closer. "Go on. You're doing great. The woman's face twisted with pain as she tried to shift. Jenna steadied her immediately. He came out of nowhere, the woman continued, each word trembling. A man. Tall, angry. He yelled at me, said I was trespassing. I tried to leave, but he grabbed me. Her breath hitched, her eyes glistening. He threw me down, hit me. I couldn't get up. Jenna's jaw tightened, rage burning beneath her calm expression. The woman lifted a shaking hand toward the puppy. Buddy tried to protect me. Tiny as he is. He barked and bit his leg. That's when the man turned on him. Tears slipped down her cheeks. He kicked him. Hard. Buddy yelped so loud. The puppy whimpered, curling even closer to her. I thought he'd run away, the woman whispered, voice breaking. But he didn't. He kept barking. Kept trying. When the man dragged me here and left me under this beam, I told Buddy to go. Go find someone. Anyone. She closed her eyes briefly, overwhelmed. I didn't think he would make it. He's just a baby. Jenna placed a steady hand on her shoulder. He did. He found us. And he led me straight to you. The woman's lips trembled into a faint, broken smile. My brave little boy, she whispered. He saved me. Jenna pressed a firm hand against the woman's shoulder as she spoke into her radio again, her tone sharp with urgency. Dispatch victim located. Severe trauma, possible internal injuries, head wound, and exposure. I need paramedics at my coordinates immediately. Repeat immediately. Static crackled then. EM's en route. Ada 5 minutes. 5 minutes felt like a lifetime. The woman's breathing began to stutter. Her eyelids fluttered dangerously. Jenna tapped her cheek gently. Hey, stay with me. Keep your eyes on me. The woman tried. Jenna could see the fight in her, but her strength was slipping. Beside her, the puppy pawed at her chest, crying loudly now, as if begging her not to disappear. He nudged her chin repeatedly, his tiny body shaking from fear and exhaustion. Jenna reached over and gently stroked his head. She's going to be okay, buddy. Just stay with her. Leaves cracked behind them. Backup officers rushed into the clearing, their faces sharpening as they took in the scene. My God. One whispered. Another knelt to help Jenna lift the beam pinning the woman down. Together, they managed to raise it just enough for Jenna to pull her free, careful not to worsen her injuries. The woman groaned in pain, clutching the puppy closer as if he were the only thing keeping her anchored to consciousness. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance. Hold on, Jenna murmured. Just a little longer. Moments later, paramedics burst into the clearing with equipment bags and a stretcher. They worked with rapid precision: oxygen mask, blood pressure check, stabilizing straps. The woman winced but didn't resist. One paramedic glanced at Jenna with a grim nod. You found her just in time. The puppy tried to climb onto the stretcher with her, refusing to be separated. Even as the medics lifted her carefully, he cried and pulled forward on the leash, desperation pouring out of him in every tiny howl. Jenna lifted him gently and set him beside the woman's arm. The puppy pressed his face against her hand, whining endlessly. She's going to make it, Jenna whispered, more to the puppy than anyone else. And as the stretcher moved through the trees, the puppy never looked away, not even once. The ambulance tore down the road with its sirens screaming, red lights reflecting against nearby buildings like frantic heartbeats. Jenna followed closely in her patrol car, the puppy secured beside her on the passenger seat. He stood the entire ride, never sitting, never blinking, his tiny paws pressed against the window as he watched the ambulance ahead with trembling focus. When they reached the hospital, paramedics rushed the woman inside. The puppy tried to leap from the car the moment Jenna opened the door, yanking the leash with surprising strength for such a small body. His nails clicked desperately against the floor tiles as he tried to chase the stretcher, but nurses gently blocked him, Easy, little guy, Jenna whispered, scooping him up. His body shook against her chest, warm and terrified. He kept staring at the doors the woman had disappeared behind, letting out soft, broken whimpers every few seconds. Time moved differently after that. Minutes felt like hours. Hours felt like days. Jenna sat on a bench in the hallway. The puppy curled tightly in her lap, refusing food, water, or even rest. Every time the double doors swung open, he lifted his head, ears perked, tail twitching, only to lower it again when it wasn't her. Visitors passed by with curious glances. Some smiled sadly. Some whispered. One little girl approached cautiously. Is he waiting for someone? She asked softly. Jenna nodded. He's waiting for the person he loves most. The girl's eyes softened. I hope she gets better. The puppy let out a tiny whine, pressing his nose into Jenna's arm. She hugged him gently. Me too, Jenna murmured. Night crept in. The hallway emptied. But the puppy never stopped listening, never stopped hoping. He would wait as long as it took. Hours slipped by, and the quiet hum of hospital machines blended into a soft, unsettling silence. Jenna gently stroked the puppy's back as he lay curled in her lap, his eyes fixed on the double doors where the woman had disappeared. His breathing was steadier now, but the sorrow in his gaze remained deep, far too deep for a puppy his age. A doctor finally approached. Not the surgeon they were waiting for, but a different man in a white coat. He carried a small clipboard and wore a thoughtful, almost regretful expression. Your Officer Halle? He asked. Jenna nodded. Yes, is she stable? She's still in surgery, he replied softly. But I wanted to explain something we discovered earlier from her medical records. Jenna straightened and the puppy lifted his head. The doctor continued. Her name is Emily Rivers. She's been in and out of clinics for months. Not because she was sick, but because she was recovering from something else. He glanced at the puppy. A few months ago, she rescued this little guy. Jenna's brow furrowed. Rescued him? From what? The doctor sighed. An abusive owner. A man with a record. Neighbors reported constant yelling, kicking. The puppy was kept outside in freezing conditions. He shook his head. Emily stepped in. She filed reports, took the puppy in, refused to give him back even when threatened. The puppy whimpered, pressing his head into Jenna's arm as if he understood every word. She loved him, the doctor added. He wasn't just a pet. He was her whole world. Jenna's chest tightened. Everything made sense. The desperation, the determination. The way he ran for help without stopping. He wasn't reacting out of instinct. He was fighting for the only family he had ever known. The doctor placed a hand on Jenna's shoulder. He saved her today, just like she saved him. The puppy let out a soft cry, part grief, part hope. And Jenna knew. Their bond ran deeper than anyone realized. The hospital hallway felt suspended in time. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting pale reflections across the polished floor. Jenna sat forward on the bench, elbows on her knees, hands clasped. The puppy lay curled at her feet now, too exhausted to sit upright, but too worried to sleep. Every so often, he lifted his head, ears twitching at the slightest sound. Then, at last the surgery room's red light flicked off. The doors swung open, and a doctor stepped out, pulling off his gloves with slow, deliberate motions. His expression was unreadable. Jenna rose instantly, heart pounding. The puppy scrambled up, nearly tripping over his own paws as he pressed against her legs, staring at the doctor with pleading eyes. Doctor, Jenna said, barely able to steady her voice, please. Tell me she's okay. The doctor exhaled, tired but relieved. She made it. Jenna closed her eyes, tension melting from her shoulders. The puppy let out a sharp, joyous bark, so small, yet bursting with pure emotion. But the doctor wasn't finished. It was close. Very close, he continued. She had internal bleeding, 2 fractured ribs, a severe concussion, and dehydration. If she'd been found even 30 minutes later. He didn't finish the sentence, but the meaning hit Jenna like a wave. The puppy whimpered, pressing his nose against the doctor's pant leg as if asking for reassurance. Himself, the doctor crouched down and gently scratched behind the puppy's ear. "You, little hero. You saved her." The puppy looked up at him with wide, shining eyes, tail giving a weak but hopeful wag. "She's stable now," the doctor continued. "Still unconscious, but she's breathing on her own. She need rest, care, and time, but she's going to live." Jenna swallowed the lump in her throat. "Can we see her?" The doctor nodded softly. "Yes, but be gentle. She's been through more than most people could survive." Jenna looked down at the puppy. "Come on, buddy," she whispered. "Let's go see your girl." The hospital room was dim, lit only by the soft glow of a bedside lamp. Machines beeped steadily, their rhythms gentle and reassuring. The woman Emily lay motionless on the bed, her head bandaged, her arm wrapped, her skin pale against the blankets. She looked fragile, breakable, yet alive. Jenna pushed the door open slowly. The puppy squeezed through the crack before she could even step inside. "Buddy, easy," she whispered. But there was no holding him back. The tiny German shepherd scrambled across the floor, nails tapping urgently. He hopped up against the side of the bed, stretching his paws as high as he could, letting out a sharp, trembling whine that filled the sterile room with raw emotion. Emily didn't move. The puppy whined again, louder this time, and nudged her hand with his nose. Nothing. Jenna stepped closer, her heart twisting. "Sweetheart," she whispered gently. "She's just resting. Give her a moment." But the puppy refused to give up. He nudged her hand again, then again, until finally Emily's fingers switched. The puppy froze. Slowly, her eyelids fluttered open. Confusion clouded her gaze at first, but then she heard it, his tiny, desperate sounds. Her eyes drifted down. When she recognized him, tears pooled instantly, spilling before she could blink them away. "Buddy." Her voice broke into a whisper of relief and disbelief. You came back." The puppy let out a joyous cry and tried climbing onto the bed. Jenna gently lifted him and placed him beside Emily. The moment he landed, he crawled straight onto her chest, nuzzling her chin, licking her cheeks. Whimpering nonstop. Emily wrapped her weak arms around him, pressing her face into his fur. "My brave boy. You saved me," she whispered through tears. "I'm here because of you." Buddy cried harder, tail wagging in frantic happiness. He didn't understand her words, but he understood her heartbeat, her warmth, her presence. He hadn't lost her. Jenna stood back, swallowing the lump rising in her throat. The room felt warmer now, alive with the soft sounds of healing, of connection, of love stronger than fear. For the first time since the woods, Buddy finally stopped trembling. A week later, Riverside Police Station looked completely different. Decorations hung from the bulletin boards, officers gathered in small groups whispering excitedly, and a small podium stood in the center of the room, draped with a navy blue cloth. But the star of the day wasn't an officer, or even a human. It was a tiny German shepherd puppy sitting proudly beside Jenna, chest puffed out, tail swishing across the floor. Buddy. Emily had been discharged that morning, weak but smiling, and now stood near the back of the room with her arm in a sling. When the officers saw her, they erupted in warm applause. But their cheers shifted almost immediately to the puppy who had saved her life. Captain Morris stepped up to the podium. "Today," he began, "we honor someone who showed courage most grown men struggle to find. Someone who ran miles in fear, pushed through pain, and never gave up until help arrived." Buddy tilted his head curiously. "Someone who saved a life," the captain continued, voice thick with emotion. A hero small in size, enormous in heart. Officers parted to give him space. Then Jenna stepped forward, holding a tiny black box. She knelt beside Buddy and opened it, revealing a miniature silver badge engraved with one word, Honorary K9. The room fell silent. Buddy, Jenna said softly. For bravery, loyalty, and for proving that heroes come in all sizes. We welcome you as an honorary member of the Riverside K9 unit. Buddy gave a small bark, as if he understood exactly what was happening. Laughter and applause filled the room. Emily wiped tears from her eyes as Buddy bounded straight toward her, badge dangling proudly from a tiny blue collar. She caught him in her arms, hugging him tightly. You deserve this more than anyone, she whispered. Officers smiled. Some wiped away tears, because they all knew the truth. This wasn't just a puppy. He was a fighter, a guardian, a lifesaver, a hero, forever etched into the heart of the station, and into the life of the woman who owed him everything.